Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Stuart, and we have Larry on board for kind of an update. And hi, Larry. How are you doing?
Hi, Stuart. Thanks for having me. Lots going on.
Yeah, a tremendous amount going on. Why don't we start with the, I call them the Trump wars, because that's basically what it appears to be. The left is really starting to get unhinged. What have you got on the, some of these guys are just declaring that Trump is, he's illegitimate, and therefore they're not even going to recognize him if he gets sworn in.
Yeah,
what say
absolutely.
you on that?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Stuart. It's beginning to solidify on the left. The left, who has just literally gone berserk, you can actually see an insanity developing in the left. I'm beginning to believe, and I shared a little earlier with you, up till now there seem to be so many conspiracy theories and warnings and et cetera, of all kind of things that might happen. I'm beginning to believe here about, 3 days or so out, that I think he is going to take office. I think Donald Trump will be inaugurated as the 45th president. I think it's a window. I'm not telling people it's a big window. I'm just saying it's a window. And but they even mentioned on Fox this morning, they were talking, and one woman was saying, we are literally watching a civil war. She said, the people may not be talking about it, and the government's not talking about it, and the politicians and the rich people, she said, but we are literally watching a civil war in progress even this early.
Well, yeah, when you have congressmen sitting there saying they're not even going to recognize Trump, even if he's sworn in, you definitely then have ruler against ruler and authority against authority, just as the prophet Jeremiah said was going to happen, and Isaiah more or less indicates that the whole government system breaks down. It doesn't function properly anymore. We've had our divisions between the Republicans and the Democrats, but it seems to be, there is not a two-party system. It's a one-party system with two heads to it. And it all goes towards the New World Order, and I firmly believe that nothing has changed with Trump. There was a Secret Service agent, at least this is what the claim is, that he told he was in this, I don't know what you could call it, club or whatever, but anyway, he kind of let loose a few things and said that Trump had been selected a couple of years ago to take office, that definitely he would be the president, which means he will be sworn in. And when he starts the roundup of the illegals, which he has promised to do, and it makes me wonder if that's what not FEMA camps might be for at first, that it's going to cause violent revolution, and that martial law will be declared. She claims, he said, it'll be in the big cities first, and it'll escalate from there, I would imagine, to ultimately a full-fledged martial law system, which is, by the way, in case people don't realize it, a United Nations system. The United Nations is a paramilitary or military operation, and that's why they have peacekeepers, which are military. And so I can see this dovetailing right into the demise of the United States and the Constitution. And as I've said before, and I don't know what you think about it, Larry, I'd like your comment. I don't see how Trump can accomplish any of what he has promised to do unless he does declare martial law. If you've got all these Democrats and half of the Republicans against him, how's he going to get anything done?
Well, that's very interesting indeed, and I saw something that I was shocked at this evening. I usually like to watch The Five. That's a show on Fox News that comes on, and there's 5 people always running their heads about where the news is leading us, and et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, I used to watch a guy on there named Bob Beckel, who really, you know, you get more angry than he ought to be probably. And actually, I think got kicked off the show 2 or 3 times. He's been gone a long time. And then all of a sudden this evening, they only had 4 people sitting there, and suddenly Bob Beckel, and you know Bob Beckel, you're well aware of who he is and the connections, you know, that he really does have behind the scenes. And he showed up. He's back on the 5, and I thought, oh, my Lord, I can't believe this, you know. And anyway, he opened up, though, with something really astonishing. I had to, for a minute there, I wasn't sure I was hearing what I was hearing, because before the election, you know, he was an Obama and a Hillary person. He was a solid Democrat, and he backed him, and he hated Trump when Trump began to actually look like he might even run and win. And so Bob Beckel, they brought him in this evening, and he's back on the show on the 5, and they asked him, well, what's your feelings now on Trump? And he said, well, I've had to take some things back in that area. He said, I'm still against Trump being president because he's not political at all. He's a non-political person. He won't know how to be a political president. He said, so he's wrong for the office. But he said he won the election, and you know what Bob Beckel said next? It just made my ears jump and caused a tingle down my spine, if you want to put it that way. He said, Bob Beckel said, Donald Trump is about to change the Middle East. And I thought, did I hear that right? And then he said, you know, the Middle East, everybody's been trying to change or fix or do something with for the last 50 years, and all the troubles that continue there. He said, I'm telling you now, he said, Donald Trump is about to change the whole Middle East. And I thought, wow. And then I called and told you, Stuart, what do you think?
Well, I think he will. I think that's why the Lord's got him in power. Now, how long he's going to remain in power, that remains to be seen. But we have the Sanhedrin in Israel. According to what I can find out, they've got basically all the utensils for temple worship. Trump has said that he's going to make Jerusalem the capital, and he's going to bring the embassy over. And so that is going to start a war. And I firmly believe that this is necessary, according to prophecy, because Israel normally in their commonwealths, if you study the history of Israel, usually fights 5 major battles. They fought 4. And after the 5th one, that's when they rebuild their temple, which is kind of interesting because I think Trump is being set up to the point where he is not going to escape being the war president. Now, I'm not saying Obama hasn't been, because most assuredly he's done more damage than anybody, having the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize. The guy is not a peace person. He's a war person. But I think Trump is being led into this situation where he's not going to have any choice. Israel is an enigma to the whole world. And now we have that UN situation where they've already basically divided the nation. And I'm not convinced. I know Kerry told Netanyahu, we're not going to do anything more at the UN, blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't believe that for anything. I think there's a plan afoot to go ahead. Now, maybe they won't do it right away, but they're going to do it, and force Israel back to the 1967 borders. And Netanyahu is going to, of course, go to war if they try it. What's your take on this move by the UN? I'm really concerned that this is not over yet.
Yeah, I'm watching that really closely. And you asked me at the beginning, you said, what do you think about Trump and a declaration of martial law? You asked me one time, I don't know, a few months ago, you said, Larry, why does Donald Trump have all those generals? Why does he have so many military people with him and he's setting them in his cabinet? Why is he surrounded with military and also lots of cops and then other people? We don't know who they are. And, I mentioned the word survival, and you just asked that simple question a few minutes ago. How can Donald Trump survive, basically, with all that's against him? Because everything out there, the entire complete system of the world is against Donald Trump. Matter of fact, I heard that Angela Merkel threatened him today, and so he's got threats coming from all around the world. But I do think, it could very easily develop in a martial law situation. We know that Obama's not planning on leaving. We know that the Democrats are now set to they're basically at war with Donald Trump. Even most of the Republicans are aligned against him. It reminded me so much. There was a strange battle called Battle of the Bastards in the Game of Thrones, and it looked like actually, the guys that Jon Snow and his buddies and all of that, they came to try to take back the castle that had been taken from him, and a lot of his family slaughtered, and he was so outnumbered and really just basically outclassed as far as the weaponry and the situation and the high ground, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But during the Battle of the Bastards, as they called it that, in the continual Game of Thrones, Jon Snow attacked all by himself, one individual, and he reminded me a lot of Donald Trump wading into war against everything. Everything was set against him. Well, the other ones joined him in battle, and it was so odd because every arrow they fired at Jon Snow, and there was thousands of them, it killed everything around him, and even some of the enemy around him, but it couldn't hit him. And Stuart, I'm almost totally convinced by things I've seen in the spirit for intercession for months and months and months. I do believe, and I'm believing more and more that Donald Trump is ordained from on high to enter that office and do. And even though, as Cyrus is said to have been not known, that he don't know the Lord, and it don't matter whether Donald Trump does or even has a keen idea. I think he's being led and guided by an unseen hand that is setting him there to bring us about in this time frame we're in on planet Earth, and it's a very short time frame I think we're set in here. And it's as Michelle Malkin said today. They said, "What could you advise people on the next few days and the next few months?" And she said, "You better buckle your seatbelt." Now that's one of the things I keep telling people.
Yes. I think a lot of people think that, we can relax now. Trump's going to come in. He's the savior of America. He's going to bring us back to the Constitution. No, he isn't. He is going to have to declare martial law. The FEMA camps will be opened. And just as in Germany, there'll be the list is innocent at first, but it expands. And it doesn't even matter if Trump remains as president or whether he's done in. Whoever takes over is going to continue, and we all both know, or at least I think you agree, that Donald Trump represents judgment upon the United States, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I believe that.
So the judgment that God levels against the United States is really horrendous. Not only does it go into earth changes, but it gets into war. And I think we are one of the ones along NATO is basically backed by the United States. And even though Trump has declared NATO kind of weak and inefficient, the ties that bind are pretty heavy there. It'll be probably when this war breaks out for Israel, everybody wants Israel. Everybody wants Jerusalem. Well, when the dust clears, there's going to have to be some sort of coalition that actually runs Jerusalem. Don't you think? And maybe the Pope is right in the middle of that as well. I mean, he's been given a seat at the upper room, which is total blasphemy as far as I can tell. They've made a lot of headway in basically being one of the chief arbitrators of the Temple Mount, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we're looking at almost an immediate confrontation very soon after Trump takes over. What do you think about that as far as Israel's concerned?
Oh, I absolutely do. And what's interesting, too, is you said the Sanhedrin has already approached Netanyahu, of course, and Trump and Putin about Jerusalem and the Temple Mount, and we're going to have to watch which way this thing moves. I do know, and I'm receiving a bit of intelligence out of Debka reports, that there's already a plan in place, it appears to be, for the U.S. and Russia to begin to take out ISIS positions in especially Palmyra, Syria, and that region, just as soon as Trump enters office. So there's going to be a paradigm shift of what the U.S. has been doing. It appears that the U.S. is going to actually send in troops into Syria to fight the ISIS forces, and but ISIS is also down in Libya. I mean, in Africa, you know, they're in a lot of places, and so that, you know, I don't see that all these wars are going to suddenly end. I actually see us having total confusion and chaos in Washington, D.C., which you might as well expect that because Obama's going to remain, and what has he given us for 8 solid years but confusion, chaos, and lawlessness, and I don't believe he'll stop now.
Well, it's kind of like the stupidity virus. I think it resides within the Beltway. Maybe even a zombie virus. But this is all part of biblical prophecy that the government breaks down, and they do stupid things. Even if they know better, they do stupid, really stupid things. And, of course, that's part, I suppose, of the judgment of the Lord against the United States. I think we're going to unravel. I don't know exactly how long it takes. I've often wondered if that 1 hour taking of Babylon is not the same as the 1 hour of the 10 kings that rule with the United Nations and give their consent to it, which is actually 3.5 years. So if that's true, then America is slated to fall over the next 3.5 years. And it's probably terminated by a massive nuclear strike. We know that from the scriptures, that we are finally terminated. Nobody knows exactly when that's going to take place, but the Ezekiel 38:39 gives us a lot of clues. When we see that happen, we're in a lot of trouble. What's your take, getting off that for a little bit? Hundreds of U.S. Marines now land in Norway, irking Russia. So the question is Obama setting up Trump? They got to have World War III. I mean, that's even in some of the religious, prophetic religious, like some of these, I guess you could call them New Age religions, say that the United States is going to get involved in a massive nuclear exchange. But this says some 300 U.S. Marines landed in Norway on Monday. And remember that Russia has a base they took over in northern Norway, I think. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
that made headlines for a little while.
They actually purchased it. They bought it, that base.
They bought it?
Yeah, that used to be a forward base for NATO and you know, U.S. intelligence watching Russia and the submarine traffic and such out of Russian waters. And, well, we abandoned it, of course, and then Russia purchased it from Norway. So it's not like they'll probably give it back. They've taken it over, and they're watching our direction from there. But what's interesting, Stuart, is it seems like Obama, and this is all happening under Obama. You know, you got to remember, people already think Trump's in office, and a lot of this is Trump's fault. Trump hadn't even took office yet. This is Obama. This is Obama on his last days out is not playing golf for the first time in 8 years, Stuart. He's not playing golf every day. He's actually hammering the American people, passing laws, sending more terrorists back to the field out of Guantanamo Bay, and actually working with the UN to hit Israel. This is all going on under Obama, so I call this more probing of the Russian bear. I think that Obama at the last moment would love to start a war with Russia and let it land in Trump's lap.
Yeah, which he could do very easily. There'd be no question there that he could actually start a war. He could start it at 12:01 on Friday and just dump it in Donald's lap. There's something going on. Why would we be advancing all of these troops along the borders of Russia with all kinds of equipment now? This is all in response, or I shouldn't word it that way. So what is Putin going to do to respond? All it takes is one little glitch or a deliberate glitch in the system, and we are in World War III.
Yeah, here's what's interesting, and this is the danger of it, Stuart. You know, I remember a number of times there were some people that predicted wars, and they were saying, I think Henry Gruver said one time, talk about a Russian nuke or 2 or 3 going off in America, but it's accidental, that it got out of control. Now, here's what people don't understand. You know, our nuclear forces, you couldn't fire a nuke without the president approving it anywhere, America-wise. Yes. But Russia's not built that way. Russia is built that if they lose connection with the Kremlin, the field commanders can fire nuclear weapons in a defense or even offensive if they assume they're under attack. That's how their system's set up. It's different from ours. Now, there's been a massive number of, and I'm watching this on the Internet, there's been a massive number of cyber attacks. Is it us doing it to Russia? I don't know, but it's coming against Russia and the Kremlin. Now, what if these cyber attacks succeed and they take down the Russian net? Well, that, you know, Russian commanders can fire on loss of contact with the Kremlin.
Well, do you remember the movie Crimson Tide?
Sure.
And they got into a big battle between, I guess, the second in command and the commander. And the commander wanted to launch the missiles. They'd lost contact, but the other one wouldn't, and it was a coup and a counter-coup and all of that sort of thing. But that could become very, very serious if they were able to cut the ties, if they know, and obviously they would know that these Russian commanders would then probably launch. And you would be almost instantaneously in a world war situation, which just about all the prophecies indicate it comes suddenly and with virtually no warning. So,
yeah,
you're probably right.
The only thing, Stuart, I think that would prevent that, and we have, even Ed Dames talked about how something other than, what's going on around us had stopped them from a preemptive attack on Moscow and on Russia, that they were going to nuke Russia in a preemptive attack, and it was stopped. Their equipment wasn't working. Nothing was working. And we remember the saucer crafts that actually cut off some of the nuclear silos and et cetera, et cetera. The hand of God could put a pause on that, even though maybe the probing now is to start a war accidentally or on purpose or otherwise. The rich men want a war, but maybe the unseen hand is holding back or restraining this back until another time, maybe months away, maybe a year or two away, who knows? But we're watching a time in history I don't believe anybody's ever seen or thought of.
Well, I know there was a situation where Dick Cheney was trying to attack Iran. And speaking about Iran, you know, Trump has come out against Iran, and Iran has threatened Trump. Iran's a very deadly little, not so little nation. And according to Daniel, the prophet, Iran is going to go forth and wreak havoc, I guess, in the Middle East, which might be an excuse for Trump. His generals are all saying we got to contain Putin as well, and of course Putin and Iran are big buddies along with Turkey. So we're watching the alignments pick up. I wanted to get to this before we have to close out. U.S. Park Police and D.C. Police investigated 2 areas where they found weapons right next to approximately where Donald Trump was going to be sworn in. Do you suppose there is going to be a massive attempt against him?
Well, it's entirely possible, Stuart. Anything could happen. We don't know. We just hope and pray that any attempts are exposed or denied by the Lord, but we don't know that. But we continue to pray, and that's all we can do.
Yep, that's it.
This inauguration is going to be one of the most dangerous in history ever.
Yeah. I mean, the communist Marxists are just livid, and they're going to try and stop unless the whole thing, you know, is protected, as you said, by the Lord, and I believe it is, or Donald would be dead now. The only other alternative is it's all part of the plan, and that's why he's still alive. I wanted to get just briefly into this Antarctic mystery is deepening now. Did you see that announcement by NASA of a discovery of a city-like formation?
No,
so this
I missed that one. I haven't.
Yeah, they announced that they've uncovered a city-like formation deep under the ice. And then, of course, you did see that UFO that they discovered peeking out from under an ice sheet. So there's something going on with all of this, and it ties back into the Nazis. It ties back into UFOs, the Fourth Reich. And I think the American people and the people of the world are being set up. And this is going to get really, really interesting as we go through 2017, the Omega year of big change. Well, what do you think?
I think that's interesting. Reminds me of the Alien versus Predator movie. And by the way, I was just going to mention, I was watching a show again, Terminator Genesis, that mentioned that Genesis, which was Skynet, would upload in October 2017 in that movie. And I thought there are so many signs pointing to this time.
Yeah, these movies are all giving us clues as to what's in the plans. I don't question that at all. And this is how they alert probably their own through movies. And it's going to be a wild ride, folks. And I don't think there's any way around not warning people that we are about here on the timelines. Everything is pointing to it, including the stars and moon and the sun. Everything is aligning like it has never before. How do people reach you, Larry?
Yeah, the quickest way is my blog, LarryWTaylor.org. And by the way, your Omega code appears to be just right on.
Yeah, unfortunately it is, or fortunately, depending on whether you're a Christian or not. It's going to be very frightening for those who have kind of mocked the scriptures. And it's just too bad that people view the Bible the way they do. They should really study it. They'd be in for a shock at how much is in there. It's not even religious. It's just good information for people. Anyway, thanks a lot, Larry, for coming on. So take care of yourself, and remember, everybody, pray for Darnett. She's still recovering. And good night, all.